Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrea and I fix your English. Today we're going to be looking specifically at a reading comprehension that is for IELTS. What we're going to do is read through the passage first of all to understand it. There's going to be some questions at the end to test your knowledge of what you've just read. So I'm going to start reading and I want you to read out loud with me. That way you get the pronunciation of all of the words, but especially the special words. We're also going to stop at the end of each paragraph and check the difficult words, okay? So the title, as you can see, is up here, Rebranding Skoda. Back in the 1980s, when I bought my first car, I could only afford a Skoda. It caused great amusement among my friends who delighted in telling me the jokes going around. Jokes like, why does a Skoda have a heated rear windscreen? Answer, to keep your hands warm when you push it. Although I put a brave face on it, I had to agree. Skoda owners couldn't claim to be leaders of fashion. I would never have predicted that by the end of the century, Skoda would be one of Britain's fastest growing car brands. The company's change in fortunes began when the Czech government, Skoda's owner, decided the business needed foreign investment. In 1991, it went into partnership with the German car manufacturer Volkswagen, which took full control of Skoda 10 years later. Okay, now let's check the most difficult words. The first one is in the title, rebranding. A brand is like the image of a company. To rebrand it means that instead of having the old image, they decided to update it, change it in some way. Skoda, as we already know, is a car manufacturer, and so they tried to change the image of that company. Okay? You understand this. I bought my first car. I could only afford. This word means when you can only pay for. You only have the money to buy and then a Skoda, which at the time was obviously not very expensive. It caused great amusement among my friends who delighted in telling me the jokes going around. So this one is a good joke. Why does a Skoda have a heated rear windscreen? So the windscreen is what stops the wind from entering your car, and it's made of glass and you can see through it. There's the front windscreen and the rear windscreen, which is the back windscreen, and it was heated, which means that it had some kind of radiator that was giving it heat. Now, the answer to keep your hands warm when you push it means that it's going to break down often, and so you're going to need to keep pushing it. And that's the joke, that it was warm to keep your hands warm because it would be breaking down so often you would need to push it yourself. Although I put a brave face on it, I had to agree. A brave face means that he was pretending to be brave. He was pretending to be happy with something that he wasn't really happy with. I had to agree. Skoda owners couldn't claim to be leaders of fashion. So the Skoda was not fashionable. The Skoda was looked at as something lower. I would never have predicted. Predicted means when you look into the future. That by the end of the century, Skoda would be one of Britain's fastest growing car brands. That means that it was growing very fast. It was a car brand, but it was selling, or it was growing company-wise very, very fast. The company's change in fortunes means that they had bad luck and now they had good luck, or they weren't selling very much and then they're selling a lot. Began when the Czech government, Skoda's owner, so we find out that Skoda belonged to the Czech government, decided the business needed foreign investment. So foreign investment means when the money was coming from outside of that country. It went into partnership. I think you probably know this word, but it means that they have a connection with another manufacturer, with the German car manufacturer Volkswagen, which took full control of Skoda 10 years later. So it means that it belonged to Volkswagen after 10 years. Okay? Now, let's go to the second paragraph. Volkswagen invested over £2 billion in the business, and the first model to be launched by the new Skoda was the Felicia in 1994. Although motoring journalists were generally positive about it, UK sales were poor. The Felicia was followed 4 years later by the Octavia, but only 6,000 cars were sold in its first year. despite good reviews. One reason was that the company's costs were greater now than before, so it could no longer afford to be a cheap brand. It had to convince customers that Skoda cars gave value for money. In addition, the company still had an outdated image that no longer matched its products, and market research found that 60% of people claimed they would never buy a Skoda. Okay, so did you see when I read this out that I said 2 billion and then I put the currency, pounds? This works for all currencies in English. So, for example, this could be $2 million, 2 million euros. We say that at the end in the business. And the first model to be launched. When you launch something in a business, it means that you start selling something. By the new Skoda was the Felicia in 1994. Although motoring journalists were generally positive about it, journalists write for newspapers, and there are specific ones that would focus on vehicles, okay? So they thought that it was a good car, but UK sales were poor, which means it sold, but not very much. The Felicia was followed 4 years later by the Octavia, but only 6,000 cars were sold in its first year, despite good reviews. That means that although everyone was giving it good reviews, it wasn't selling. For some reason, Skoda couldn't sell because they had a bad reputation. One reason was that the company's costs were greater now than before, so it could no longer afford to be a cheap brand. That means that before they were selling their cars cheaply, but now they were selling it for more, and that meant that people weren't buying it because now it wasn't a cheap car as such. It had to convince customers that Skoda cars gave value for money. So you pay for something and you get something in return for that value. So somehow they needed to convince them that buying their car was a good investment. In addition, the company still had an outdated image that no longer matched its products. The image of the car was not what the car is now, so they needed to change that. Market research. Market research is when there's questionnaires done about something particular. Okay, found that 60% of people claimed they would never buy a Skoda. That must have been very sad for Skoda at the time. Okay, next paragraph, you're doing great. The Skoda brand must have seemed a liability to Volkswagen, as the UK is a large car market. However, the cars sold well in Eastern Europe and were moderately successful in most Western European countries. In the UK, Skoda at least had the advantage of high brand awareness. That is, many people recognized the name even if they remembered it for the wrong reasons. Okay, so a liability means that it's not a positive for Volkswagen. They are a liability. They are losing money, as the UK is a large car market. However, the cars sold well in Eastern Europe and were moderately successful in most Western European countries. So the only place where it wasn't selling very well was the UK, but it had a large car market, so that must have been sad that they weren't able to sell more. But in the UK, Skoda at least had the advantage of high brand awareness, and it explains what that means. Many people recognize the name, even if they remembered it for the wrong reasons. So they know of Skoda, but obviously it's not good for the company because no one wants a Skoda. Let's go to the next paragraph. March 2000 saw the launch of the Fabia, with an advertising message that gently made fun of British consumers' perceptions. The Fabia is a car so good that you won't believe it's a Skoda. The car was an instant success. There was also a shift in the image of Skoda cars in Britain, with the 60% who would not consider buying one falling to 42%. Skoda has successfully been rebranded. Now, for many UK customers, a Skoda is a cut-price Volkswagen and a purchase well worth considering. Okay, again, that launch when they started to sell the Fabia with an advertising message that gently made fun. That's to joke about something of British consumers' perceptions. So the message that went with selling the car was, the Fabia is a car so good you won't believe it's a Skoda. The car was an instant success. There was a shift in image. So instead of them thinking it was a bad car, they're now thinking it's a good car. 60% would not consider buying one falling to 42%. So instead of 60% of people saying they would not buy a Skoda, it's now 42%. So their reputation is better. Skoda have been successfully rebranded. Now for many UK customers, a Skoda is a cut price, which means reduced or discount Volkswagen, and a purchase well worth considering. And me? Well, I'm again an owner of a Skoda, but this time I'm proud to be one. Do you remember at the beginning of this article, the author said that he bought a Skoda and people were laughing at him? Do you remember? At the beginning, right at the beginning. Well, now he's not. So now he's a proud owner. He doesn't just have a brave face. Well done. So now we go to our questions. So this is for an IELTS exam. If you are not fully acquainted with an IELTS exam yet, they will ask a question and you need to say whether it's true, whether it's false, or whether the information is not given. What does that mean? It means it's neither yes nor no. Okay, so the first question is, in the 1980s, Skodas were the least popular cars in Britain. Okay, what do you think? Is it yes, is it no, or is it not given? Okay, the answer is that it's not given. Why? Because if we look at this, it says that while Skoda owners couldn't claim to be the leaders of fashion, do you see this? Let's change the color. Let's change it to orange. Skoda owners couldn't claim to be the leaders of fashion, but we're not told whether it was the least sold. It's just that it wasn't very popular. So this one would be not given. Question 2. The Czech government negotiated with several foreign companies before deciding to work with Volkswagen. So this one would be the first paragraph again at the end. It went into partnership. Do you think this is yes, no, or not given? The answer again is not given. Why? Because even though it says the Czech government, Skoda's owner, decided the business needed foreign investment and they went into partnership with the German car manufacturer Volkswagen. Even though it says that, we aren't told whether the company negotiated with other companies. Let's go to question 3. Question 3 is, sales of the Felicia were lower than they deserve to be. Okay, so we're talking about the Felicia here. Do you think this is yes, no, or not given? This one is true. This one is yes. Why? Because it says here, although motoring journalists were generally positive about it, UK sales were poor. So this shows that although shows that the writers thought that it should have better sales. Good. Let's go to question 4. The Octavia seemed outdated. Okay, let's look. The Octavia is here. Can we guess? Is it yes, no, or not given? Okay, this one is no. Why? Because it says the company still had an outdated image that no longer matched its products. Okay, so this one means that the Octavia didn't seem to be outdated. Okay, question 5. Very few British people had heard of Skoda in the 1990s. Okay, where do we get this? It is in this paragraph here. What do you think? This one is no, because it says, in the UK, Skoda at least had the advantage of high brand awareness. Question 6. The Fabia was a better car than the Felicia and Octavia. Is that true, false, or not given? Okay, this one is not given. Let's look. Because although it said that the Fabia was more successful, it doesn't actually tell us there whether it was a better car. The author doesn't compare their quality, so we can't know for certain. So this one is a not given. And the last question. Many British customers believe Skoda and Volkswagen cars are of similar quality. This one is yes. A Skoda is a cut price Volkswagen. Okay, very well done. So what have you done today? You have read a typical article for the IELTS exam. You have checked the most difficult words. You have pronounced the words with me, which also helps your pronunciation. And you have also understood the answers to the questions that are given. So as usual, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon. Bye.